In the last segments, you've seen how number of lines and line lengths can create forward motion, can contrast between sections, can create prosody, can spotlight important ideas. And now we're going to move on to rhyme scheme. One of the things you probably noticed is how easily number of lines and line length cooperate together to create effects. So, for example, creating instability, once again back to the Cars pre-chorus in Why Can't I Have You, note that not only is the third line shorter, but da 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 da, but da 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 da, but da da da, but it's also three lines. And so that the sequence of three lines, which is in itself unstable and wants to move forward, and the shorter third line, which is even more unstable, creates a much stronger push. What we're going to see now, turning to rhyme schemes, is that rhyme can now add its element to number of lines and length of lines to create even more activity, to create even more prosody, to create even more light in spotlighting, to create even more contrast between sections. So that we'll start with the very simple use of rhyme scheme, that is n-line rhymes. And the n-line rhymes create, as all rhyme does, creates a kind of roadmap for your ear. That is, songs are not seen typically, songs are heard. And rhyme is something not that you see, but that you hear. So that the rhyme scheme is a kind of roadmap, kind of a razor of what's coming next, a razor of expectations for you as you move through lines and lines and lines. So let's talk about stable versus unstable in terms of rhyme schemes. The most stable thing you can have is two equal length lines that rhyme. So, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe. And we're done. Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe. Now, even though you know that there's more of that nursery rhyme, you don't feel like, oh, come on, give me more. I feel so unstable. No, because you have equal length lines and they rhyme. Now, note that eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe is much more stable, or slightly more stable at any rate, than eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the foot. And so you can see now that the sound connection between moe and toe has added more balance, more stability to the two equal length lines. Two lines, stable. Equal length lines, stable. Rhyming lines, also even more stable. So eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe. That's called a couplet. C-O-U-P-L-E-T, a couplet. That is to say, two lines that rhyme. So two equal length lines that rhyme, in fact. So that couplet is probably the single most stable unit. It stops us. It says, okay, hold it. We're done. Okay? If we continue on, we're going to be starting anew. We're going to be starting over. And so in eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe, if he hollers, make him pay $50 every day. Now we have a four-line sequence, but that four-line sequence has been fractured. That four-line sequence contains a stop in the middle. I call it a fragmentation. So that really, in that four-line sequence, we're looking at two lines plus two lines. That is, two stable lines followed by two stable lines. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, make him pay $50 every day. So there's a dance, or a concerting, I guess you might call it, of number of lines, length of lines, and rhyme scheme to give us a full stop at the end of those 4 lines, and in fact, to give us a full stop after the first 2 lines, and then another full stop after the next 2 lines. So writing in couplets is certainly a possibility, but one of the things about couplets, of course, is that they stop you every 2 lines. And if you have a really healthy diet of couplet after couplet after couplet after couplet, an unrelenting march of the couplets, then you're going to be stopping us every 2 lines, and the song is going to be in jeopardy of being a little too fractured and feeling perhaps a little bit too long. So that couplets is something that you will use, but I think probably not use it as the steady diet for a whole song. In terms of other stable rhyme schemes, let's look at Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Now there's a 4-line sequence, and note that in this 4-line sequence, we have the first line long, the second line short, the third line long, the fourth line short, so that the sequence of long line, short line, long line, short line, where the long lines match in their lengths and where the short lines match in their length, that creates a sequence. Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. So that's now another really stable sequence. And of course, you might even rhyme the first line and the third line and create a rhyme scheme that rhymes 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. In terms of rhyme notation, let's call each new sound that we have, each new rhyme sound that we have, by a letter of the alphabet. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, make him pay $50 every day. So mo, toe, pay, day. We just simply notate that as AA, BB. Note that that notation of AA, BB is also a description of the line lengths, that the line lengths AA match. Now BB are still, I guess when we look at it that way, the line length notation would be AAAA, I suppose. But when we get to Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as snow, everywhere that Mary went, lamb was sure to go. Now let's use an X for an unrhymed line. And so we would simply have XA, XA. And we'll just use that notation as we go. It'll make things a little bit easier for us as we proceed. So let's see now, we have 2 very stable rhyme schemes. And now let's look at an unstable rhyme scheme. And this is kind of a surprise. Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, she sold the fleece to pay the rent. And so now we have Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, and we're looking for a rhyme for snow because it's the short line. And then when we get to that last line, it's got 2 things going for it. Number 1, it's longer than we expected. And number 2, it rhymes with the third line. Mary had a little lamb, fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, she sold the fleece to pay the rent. That's a surprise. In fact, we've been fooled into thinking, into expecting a rhyme for go, and yet we get a rhyme for the third line. So we've been fooled. That we could call a deceptive cadence. Those are interesting. Of course, it's unstable, and what it also does is it just turns huge spotlights on to that last part of the fourth line.